All right, welcome to The Explainer. Most of us spend a huge chunk of our lives working inside some kind of organization. But have you ever stopped to think about how they actually work? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the blueprint from a tiny garage startup all the way to a global giant to really understand their DNA.
I mean, it's a story we all know, and it almost seems like magic, doesn't it? But it's not magic at all. Behind every single one of those success stories is a blueprint, a series of choices about structure that lets a company grow from just a simple idea into a massive, complex force. So today, let's map out that blueprint together.
So, let's start at the very beginning. What even is an organization? Well, at its core, it's pretty simple. It's a social arrangement, so a group of people, who are all chasing collective goals. A shared mission. But the key is those last two parts. It has to be able to control its own performance and have a clear boundary between itself and the outside world.
That definition right there, that's the fundamental blueprint. It applies to everything, from your favorite local coffee shop to a huge multinational tech company. But the most important part of that blueprint, well, it probably isn't what you think it is.
It is so easy to think of organizations as these cold, efficient machines, right? Just boxes on a chart. But that misses the most important word: social. Modern thinking on this is crystal clear. Companies are human systems. They run on relationships, on ambitions, on all the messy, complicated stuff that happens when you put people together in a room.
So just think of it like this. You absolutely need both of these ingredients to make it work. You need the people agreeing to work together, that's the social arrangement, and you need everyone pulling in the same direction. That's the collective goal. If you're missing one of those, you don't have an organization. You've just got chaos.
Okay, let's actually trace the life cycle of a company. Every great story has a beginning, and for most businesses, that beginning is small, it's super simple, and it's usually driven by one single, powerful vision.
And this is what it looks like, the classic entrepreneurial setup. You've got one founder who has the dream, and literally everyone reports directly to them. Communication is instant, decisions get made in a snap, and the mission is crystal clear. It's the perfect structure for a new company where speed is absolutely everything.
But what happens when that scrappy little startup actually succeeds? It grows. And with that growth comes a whole new level of complexity. That simple boss and workers model that got you here, it just can't keep up anymore. It is time to specialize.
And that specialization leads us right here, to the functional structure. As the company gets bigger, you can't have everyone doing a little bit of everything. It's just not efficient. So you group your experts together. All the numbers people go into the finance department. The inventors go into R&D. The charismatic talkers, they form the sales team. This creates incredible efficiency and some serious expertise. And here are those essential functions you'd find in pretty much any company you can think of. Think of them like the critical gears in a big machine. You need one gear to sell the product, one to actually invent and build it, another to manage the money, and one to hire and take care of all the people.
So our little startup is now a big, successful company. But with even more growth, like say launching totally new products or expanding into new countries, even that functional structure starts to groan under the weight. You need even more advanced ways to keep everything from falling apart.
This brings us to the divisional structure. Just imagine the company is now so massive that it's in two completely different businesses. Let's say pharmaceuticals and house paint. A single sales department can't possibly sell both of those effectively. So the company splits itself into what are basically mini-companies or divisions. Each division gets its own finance team, its own R&D, its own sales, letting it totally focus on its own unique market.
Now, for the most complex kinds of work, you get the matrix structure. Okay, stay with me here, because this is where things get really interesting. Look at this grid. An employee, let's call her an engineer, is working on Project A. So she reports to the Project A manager for her deadlines. But she's also an engineer, which means she also reports to the head of engineering for technical standards. Two bosses. It sounds complicated, but it creates this really healthy tension. A constant push and pull between getting the project done fast and getting it done right.
And no matter what structure a company uses, every single one operates on these three levels. Way up at the top, you have the strategic level. That's the CEO and the board thinking 5-10 years into the future. Then in the middle, you get the tactical level. These are your department managers working on this year's plan, this year's budget. And down at the bottom is the operational level,
the frontline folks handling the day-to-day, minute-to-minute work.
But look, these structures are not carved in stone. In the world we live in today, organizations are being forced to constantly change. There's this immense pressure to cut costs and to move faster, and that pressure has totally reshaped what a modern company looks like.
This leads to a really key choice in how you design a company. Are you going to be tall and narrow or wide and flat? A tall structure has tons of layers of management. That means close supervision, yeah, but communication moves at a crawl. A flat structure has way fewer layers, which empowers teams and makes decisions happen much, much faster.
And this whole tension really came to a head back in the 1990s. Companies were facing this brutal new wave of global competition, and they basically went on a diet. They started a process called delayering, just ruthlessly cutting out layers of middle management to flatten their structures, save a ton of money, and try to become more agile.
This connects to another huge, fundamental question. Where does the power actually live? In a centralized company, all the big decisions are made at the very top. It's coordinated, sure, but it can be painfully slow. In a decentralized one, you push that power down to the teams on the ground. It's way faster and more motivating, but you run the risk of creating all these little silos that might start working against each other. It's a constant balancing act. The latest trends are even starting to dissolve the company's own borders. The thinking goes something like this. Hey, why are we handling our own IT support or our own accounting in-house if that's not what we're best at? And that leads to outsourcing non-essential tasks, offshoring work to save money, and creating these shared service centers. The whole goal is to focus a company's precious energy only on the things that it does best. Okay, so we've covered the charts, the structures, the levels, but if you think that's the whole story, you are missing the single most important part. Because underneath all of that, there's a hidden organization.
This quote just perfectly captures the idea. The formal organization, the org chart, the rules, the official stuff, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's the part you can see. But the vast, powerful, and potentially dangerous part is hidden just beneath the surface.
So, what's in that hidden part? Well, while the formal organization runs on charts and procedure manuals, the informal one runs on rumor, gossip, and all those unspoken group norms. It's driven by personal ambitions, secret alliances, and old rivalries. Management might write the official rules, but this informal network, this is often what decides how things really get done.
And that leads us to the single most important takeaway from all of this. An org chart is just a map, but it's not the territory. To truly understand and navigate any organization, whether you're an employee, a customer, or an investor, you have to learn how to read both the visible structure and the invisible network that gives the whole thing its real power.
So that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. When you really look at the whole picture, the formal rules versus the informal power dynamics, which part do you think truly has more control? The answer might just change the way you look at every single company you encounter from here on out.